Hello and welcome back to the Client Code podcast. My name is Carol Kabale, and today, as always, you're in for a treat. So if you are a leader and you are navigating or you are in a transition, if you're looking for more clarity, if you're looking for more depth, if you need someone to give you that courage, that helping hand to find purpose in that time of change, then today's episode is just for you. Okay. Hello, Meggi, and welcome to the Client.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
Yay! I'm so excited. Guys, you know, I say this all the time. I know you're tired of it, but this is going to be a good interview. This is going to be great. I can already feel it. And what a great time it's come in, because I feel like we're in that season of change, transition, becoming, new year, new me. Dare I say it? So I think today we really have the best expert to talk to us about what that might look like. I'm very excited. I don't know about you. But before we dive right in to all the things, Meggi, I want to ask you, what is your unique client code?
So I thought very hard about this, and I would say I have Sherlock Holmes skills. So let me explain that a little bit more. So I'm actually a mix of things. I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, so I just love working with people. And actually one of my clients gave me that feedback and I thought it was so cool. So he said, you have this unique skill. You're a good listener. I'm really curious. I'm naturally curious. So I like to do the detective work and dig. And I like looking at the big picture. So I look at the big picture, I dig deeper, I listen, and then I go, you have to change this. And of course, this is very different for different people. So just to give you one concrete example of exactly that person who gave me that idea. So he's an extremely driven, ambitious, very smart person. And he was on a transition himself. And he wanted to nail a big job in the corporate sector. And he's done a few interviews. He got to interview stage and then he didn't get further. And he got some feedback on it. And then digging deeper, we realized he over-prepared. I mean, everybody should prepare, but he prepared to the level that for each, he anticipated any potential question. And for any potential question, he prepared the answer. He did like a masterpiece for each interview. But he's a real natural speaker as well. And I've realized probably he lost his edge, his natural authenticity by being over prepared. So I challenged him not to prepare. And that was really uncomfortable for him. So I challenged him to go to some low stake interviews, like, the jobs that you don't absolutely want, and just play with it and learn. And then he got a hang of it. And then he nailed himself an amazing job. And, it was just a pleasure to see.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, first of all, right off the bat with the success story, I mean, should we all just hire you now?
Sure.
Can we all just do that already? Do we need to continue with the interview? I mean, she just told you how great she is. No, I joke, I kid. But that's actually very true. I think sometimes whatever that thing is, like you say, for all of us, it's a little bit different. Not only to identify it, but also to have the courage to want to change it and to improve. I think a lot of us know what is wrong, but a lot of us don't do anything about it. And that is where the real problem lies.
Absolutely. And I think often people get stopped because they think they have to change everything tomorrow, and that feels intimidating. And that's why I really love this idea of little experiments or tests. You just try something small. Just try this one thing in the next interview, or just try this next thing in your next application and just see what happens. And then if it didn't work, well, you just do something else.
I like that. How many experiments would you say you encourage people to try at a time? Do we change only one variable or two? And could you give us an example on, if it's okay, of something you sort of teach when you work with your clients? Like, hey, this is the first experiment you should probably try out.
One thing that I found really eye-opening when working with my own coach, because also I really do believe, most people have a coach one way or another, and most coaches have coaches, which just proves that it makes sense because we don't have to walk it alone, right? So it's linked to LinkedIn. So I had somehow this whole idea, I try to get it as good as possible and that's it. But, it's not carved in stone because it's not stone. So, your headline, play with it, come up with something. And then, that would be one of the first things I would challenge people to do. First of all, get your LinkedIn profile spot on. And then also play with it, change it, change the header, change the headline, and just see if it changes the feedback or the reaction you're getting.
Oh, I love that. I think sometimes we treat social media, particularly LinkedIn, like a website. And I see this in my own clients. They're like, okay, we built this beautiful website and we're just going to leave it. Just like how you, as a human being, evolve and change, so do these platforms and these profiles. So if you're going for different job opportunities or positions, of course, it would make sense that your presentation needs to adapt in the same way. So I love that you reminded us of that, because honestly, I'm guilty of that too. I was on a talk the other day with friends and we had a whole lady who's great at LinkedIn. She's like a real expert on it. And she was like, oh, I have so many connections. I went and looked at mine. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing a great job there. But then again, that's not where my focus is. But if it was my focus, it would be like, okay, I really need to, how do I improve on that? What steps can I actively take every day to move even 1% forward?
Absolutely. And also the header picture, it's such a powerful tool that many people are not using. And the weeks my podcast comes out, I put the podcast banner. Other weeks I put my coaching banner. Other weeks I'm still, for now I have 2 banners, but I might come up with some other banners depending on what I'm up to. So you can really adapt as you go along and just play with the tool.
I love that. I do think that's a very underrated thing. Also, I used to do the same thing on Facebook, like change your banner. It doesn't have to be one thing. And also, people like to click on them, and usually you can attach a link or a second location, like take them places. I'm glad you spoke about your podcast, by the way, because I did want to bring it up. You have a great podcast. It says, play it by your rules. I want to chat about what that looks like for you, what you're doing, that ethos. What should people know about that?
Fantastic. I'm glad you're asking. I call it my mindful rebellion. And what I mean by that, I'm actually a people pleaser. And I'm a people pleaser gone rebel energy. And what I mean by that is, it's really hard as a people pleaser. Often it's so hard to know your boundaries, and when you know them, to dare to defend them. So play it by your rules is not an egoistic person that thinks like my way or the highway. It's more, the mindset is more, first of all, to play it by your rules, you have to figure out what your rules are. So there's a lot of introspection has to happen first. And then once you know your rules, then you can define your rules and claim your boundaries and claim your voice and play it more by your rules. And actually just recently I finished this book. It's called Rebel Talent. And I'll bring on the author. I'm trying to get her on the podcast because I thought, okay, I also work with corporates sometimes. And I was like, okay, if I encourage people too much to rebel, maybe corporates will think like, oh my God, I don't want to have rebels in my team. But actually they should. So this lady, she did a lot of research and she found out that having rebels in your team is even better for corporates because you have more innovation, people dare to speak up, there's a lot of benefits. And of course, you have to do it in a mindful way. That's why it's a mindful rebellion. It's not just a rebellion to provoke your boss.
To set everything on fire and walk away.
Exactly. That's not the idea. So that's the idea behind it. And then I try to bring in a mix of guests, experts, people that try to do something really crazy themselves. And just, I love people to walk away with a sense of possibility to just try something and do something and start the transition. This podcast is also about transitions, right? To spark people to dare take a first step towards their transition, towards the life they always wanted.
I love that. Okay, so let's say I've decided this is the year where I actually want to get some healthy work-life balance. Okay, this is the year where I want to transition. I'm going to invest in myself. I'm putting my own oxygen mask on. I'm doing the things. Okay, how do I do that?
So I've gotten into mindfulness over the last 2 years, and I'm actually, now it's almost a year, and I'm almost meditating now every day. And it's not only that, because I think that sometimes people feel overwhelmed again when they hear mindfulness, like, oh my God, I don't have time to meditate 20 minutes each day. But it's also a lot about the mindset and the principles, and also little moments, because you really don't need to meditate 20 minutes a day. I mean, if you can, it's great. But if not, I mean, I start my day now just doing this breathing exercise where you breathe in and out at a count of 5 it's like cardiac breathing. I don't know how it's called in English. I learned it in French. But anyway, you get the idea. So these little things, just to integrate them into your life, because that it's so much to do with our mind and our mindset. And if you manage to be more in the here and now, calm our bodies, find those moments of peace of mind, that's already a first step for our work-life balance. And then of course there are many other things you can do in terms of nutrition, in terms of sports and exercise, all, I mean, I think there are many variables, but just having one small place to start, I think, will increase the chances that you actually will make it a habit and stick to it.
And I agree. That small little thing that you change in your life is actually what snowballs everything. I look at myself and I wanted to become a more healthy person. So I started very simply. I got a gym membership and I used to just go to the sauna. I didn't like to run. I didn't like the weights. I didn't do the pool. I didn't do anything. I used to drive there, sit 20 minutes in the sauna, and then I didn't even like to shower there because gross. I'm not showering there. Put my clothes back on and I will go home, shower, and that was me. And I did that continuously for about 3 months before I decided I'm craving more. Like, I need more than the sauna. And then I said, okay, let me do the rowing machine. And I did that for 30 minutes. And now I've gotten to the point where, well, that was like last year. Now I've gotten to the point where I gym 3 times a week with a personal trainer who's amazing. And we do strength training. We do weights, which is very scary if you think about it. Like, I personally thought that whole area with those people and their muscles, and I'm like, am I lost? But now I'm one of them. So I think even in life, in your work, your career, as long as you want that, like that balance, like we spoke about, it's good to work at it at 1% at a time. I love the way you put that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, and congrats for your gym, because I think once you start liking it, then you have the reward and then you want to go back there, right? So it's also something where, first of all, you prioritize it, you make it a priority, but then the second you start actually liking it, it'll make it easier to stick to it.
I agree. Now, let's say we figured this out. Okay, we figured out a little bit. I need to stay consistent. I need to get into it. But how do I get into the peak flow of my performance when I'm in this career change, when I'm in my work? How do I get into that? And how do I unlock it? Tell us.
Yeah, so there's this model developed by this wonderful, I think, Czech person with an unpronounceable name. The whole concept of Mikhail, very long surname, but he developed this concept of flow. And he identified a few variables that are needed to get into flow. So you can almost trigger it consistently. And I would say it's actually, to say it in really simple words, it's a mix of standard time management recommendations and mindfulness, to say it really simply. Because a lot of it is not like rocket science, block times of work, don't multitask, like a few things that standard like time management recommendations most people might have heard of already, but to be really disciplined about that. And then also there's one technique that I quite like. They call it Pomodoro technique, whereas you work for a certain amount of time, whatever works for you, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 90 minutes, and then you build in a break. And then you repeat. And if you mix that with your breathing exercise, with not multitasking, just more intentional about these things, that can drive efficiency up so much. Just to give you a stupid little example, this morning I was like, okay, I want to go for a run. I have this recording. And before that, I want to work on a tool I want to distribute tomorrow in my LinkedIn Live. So I was like, okay, I have between 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And I get as far as I can get in that hour. And it was just amazing. I mean, I didn't finish it, but I got really far because I was just like, okay, on that hour, I just zoom in completely. I don't look at anything else. Then I go for my run, and that was amazing. And here I am. So I think it's really plan for these time slots and also do them at the moments where your brain works best. If you're a morning person, do the deep work in the morning. I'm actually writing some of my writing I do at night because I'm just most creative at night. So it's really find the slot that works best for you.
I also agree with that. I'm very much the opposite. I love a lazy morning. And then in the afternoon, that's where my brain really activates. I always tell my clients, if you want the best of me, do not schedule an 8 o'clock call with me because you're going to get like uncaffeinated Carol. And she's a bit of a doozy. Like, that girl has a mind of her own. But if you get me at 10 o'clock, I've had breakfast, I've had a coffee, I'm like very pleasant person, I can give you all my energy. So I do also 100% agree with you. I like the Pomodoro method. I was just, as you were saying it, I have a little timer. I do the same thing. I like have this little timer and I set out my intentions for the day. And this is an hour. And I try and do deep work for an hour. And what gets done in that time gets done. And then what doesn't, like you say, I also try and give myself grace. Like, it's okay. We'll do it later or we'll do it in another slot. I think as humans, sometimes we get really hung up on the perfection of it all that we forget what we actually accomplished.
Absolutely. And you know what I love about your timer? I think we're in such a smartphone world. We're so glued to our screens. And these old school visual tools, they can be so cool. You just literally see the sand dropping. And I think yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
No, I promise you, like, this is so satisfying to watch this. Also, I'm going to show my age here, but this, if you ever watch I think it's an American soap opera called Days of Our Lives. It always started with an hourglass like this. I know, guys, I'm showing you my age, but it always said, like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. It was so cool. So when I saw it, I had to have this. I was like, oh, I need that in my life.
I
Very
wanted
nostalgic.
to.
So good. Okay, so let's wrap up, Meggi, and let me ask you other question that I ask everyone because I like to be in people's business and ask you, what is it? So I have this mantra that basically says, what you don't change, you choose. So what are you choosing today?
So I'm choosing to finally go all in on my coaching, or coaching. I don't know, not even coaching, portfolio career. Because, when I say portfolio career, it might be a mix of speaking, training, coaching, but really to do my thing. Because, I've been coaching for a long time as a side hustle next to my job. And I had the luck or bad luck to lose my job this summer. And then I came back part-time, but literally next week I'm wrapping up. So I have nothing lined up for next year. In addition, like there's no employment lined up right now. So now I go and I really want to see how far I can push my podcast, my coaching, my speaking. And I'm scared because we talked about transition, how scary that can be. Well, we gotta feel the fear and do it anyway. So that's what I'm choosing.
First of all, you're very brave, but it is going to be okay. Like you, I left my job one day and I didn't tell anyone in my family, and I just decided to be an entrepreneur. And it was very scary, like you. I had nothing lined up and it was just a lot. If I can give you your own advice back to you and say, focus on what you've just said to yourself. I'm going to bet on myself. Regardless what distractions, shiny objects, things come up, I'm going to push and I'm going to just focus on this. No matter what other shiny thing. I know you have a coach, but like, stay with that coach, if that makes sense. Don't get another coach and then do this course and that program and whatever. These are all distractions. You are enough. There is enough in you to make this work. I know it. So
Thank
I
you
wish you
so
all the
much.
best. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
it's
you
going
very
to be
much.
great. I promise you it's going to be great. Okay, so Meggi, where can the people find you? Where can I send them?
Well, send them to my podcast, listen to it, spread the vibe, play it by your rules. And I can also, there's my website, mindsetmastery.ch. So we can drop it in the show notes where people can also
Yes.
learn a little bit more of what I'm doing and how we could connect.
I love that. Okay, guys. Well, Meggi, again, it was such an honor having you on the Client Code podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And thank you, listener, for listening to us on the Client Code podcast. It really does mean a lot to me. And I cannot wait until we connect on the next one. Bye.